Doodlebud here. Today we're going to do some more nib tweaking. We're going to take this nib from this to this. So this is my Ranga 9B that I bought from the International Group Buy. I got a pair of nibs for it. If we can focus, you can see I got a Schmidt. This is a broad. And I also ordered a spare nib, got the same thing in a medium. Now for me personally, a regular medium nib and a regular broad nib aren't my most favorite, just doesn't suit my style. They're really pretty looking nibs. I thought the gold went well with the yellow and green combo here as well. But what we're going to do, we're going to take these nibs, which to me are kind of boring, and make them fun. Let's get a reference. We'll do a before and after. This is the broad nib. Steel, of course. So I thought we'll just do a quick writing sample. So it's really nice and wet, as a broad nib should be, but for me, it just doesn't have the flair. It's a little bit boring, a little bit flat. I got two nibs to do. What I'm going to do is just do a writing sample for the medium and the broad so we can come back afterwards, compare what they look like. And that way, if you're thinking of getting a nib ground from a regular medium or broad to an oblique version, maybe this will help you with that decision-making process. So the writing samples are done. The medium and the broad we have, so I left some space underneath. So that way when I come back, we'll have it right below each other and we can see which one looks better. So I'm not going to do as much detail as I normally do with a nib grind video. I've done some other ones. I even did one where I took this double broad and made it an oblique. What I'll do, I'll just leave a link in the description down below there, and you can check that video out of me doing this pen. But it's going to be the same procedure on these two nibs as I did on this guy here. And let's just get this grind done, and then we can come back, compare the writing samples, and see how it looks. Okay, now here's that medium ground to an oblique medium. Let's try it out. Let's get you up nice and close. Yeah, you just see that nice little bit of contrast, especially on like that, the eye there in medium. It just looks much better. At least for me it does. And same with the writing. You can see it's all just kind of smushy here for me when I write with a medium. But the loops look nice, the transitions look good. It's actually a little easier to read, a little more clear. Again, you can see that slant it forces you to do. And it does look lovely. So here's the broad now ground to an oblique broad. Let's get that nice little angle to it. And the cool thing, when you do it yourself, you can just smooth it just the way you like to fit your style of handwriting. So up top here, this was beforehand with printing and then cursive. And then we can see the comparison down here. So you can see with the printing, just those differences, like the eye for sure. It just gives a nice little flair to it. You can totally see it now compared to here when you're doing your loops and your little hatch there as well. But check out that line variation on that B. That just looks great. And then the writing makes my writing look so much nicer. Less smushy, as I call it, just giving those nice thin strokes for the loops. Gives a little more separation, a little more clarity to your writing there as well. At least it does for me. Here we are with the comparison. Up top, that's the oblique broad. This is the oblique medium. You can just see on the S a little bit. It's a little thicker here. And this is the oblique broad here. You can see on those hash marks, it is thicker on the downstrokes on the broad versus the medium. I just drew a B on here just so you can have a comparison. Again, they're fairly close. It's not wildly different, but they are fairly similar to each other. Up here, writing sample as well. That's the oblique broad up on top. Here's the medium on the bottom. Now, it's a little deceiving because I had to re-ink the pen when I switched it, and the medium was extra wet, so it's actually writing a little bit thicker on there. But yeah, you can see here on these guys, just not quite as thick on the downstroke versus here. But they're both really lovely to write with. So out of these two, which one would be my personal favorite for everyday writing? Of course, I'd have to go with the oblique. In this case, between these two, I would go with the medium. It's really nice. Yeah, just for regular writing, I find the medium just a little bit nice, but it's got a nice little flair to it. That sample here was wrote with the oblique medium. Just enough to make it look fancy, but you could still write tight if you need to. That's one cool thing with the oblique. You can get stuff really close to each other. You can even write fairly small and still have it be quite legible and keep loops and stuff like that together. So yeah, the oblique medium, I love it. So I think this wraps it up. I hope this helped you in some way. You get to see how the differences between having a medium then to oblique, and same with the broad as well. A bit of a comparison, maybe in the market for getting your first oblique nib. Now again, I ground these myself. So if you're ordering, say, a Lamy oblique medium or oblique broad, it might not be the same as what I got going on here with my pen. For reference, the ink I used the Robert Oster Ryde green. That's the lighter colored one. And the other ink I used, that's the Sherwood green. That's the darker colored one. But I think now, with this really great pen, this Model 9B, it's a really big pen, fits well in the hand, super well made. This is their premium ebonite. I find this type of nib just seems to really suit the pen now. It's a really good match. And the fact I can switch it up and go a little thicker if I want to, I just find this is the right type of nib for this pen. So there you go. Hope that helped. Again, if you got any questions or comments, just leave them down below. Thumbs ups and subscribes obviously helps the channel so I can keep doing stuff like this. Hope you learned something today or got something out of this. Anyways, we'll catch you next time.